For some of y'all who may not know, my name is Nazar. Um, Real name Farhan, as you can see. I'm going to be going over some of my songs today. If you guys don't know who I am a producer from Houston, Texas. I make primarily bass music oriented stuff. But I now make pretty much anything. But yeah, I'm gonna go over two of some of my favorite songs I've ever made, some stuff that you guys might really like. So I'm gonna go ahead and play you guys the first song I'm gonna be going over today. This is Jinn. Some of you guys may have heard it. I put it out on Bass Rush Records. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Getting a little bit of CPU lagging. Getting a little CPU lag. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna free up some CPU space really fast. This might happen a few times throughout the stream. Just to let you guys know, I do not have the best laptop in the world, so sometimes my stuff will freeze up, but for the most part we should be okay. Let's get through. Let me make sure this recycles correctly. All right, cool. We should be good. We should be good. Hunter, we're gonna go through all that. Dubstep Kashmir. Wow, I love that. Okay, So I thought it was a cashmere sample. Actually, we're gonna get through all this. We're gonna go through all of it. Okay, so let's start off with, I think Benjamin here had a question. He said, how do you free up CPU? I have the same problem. I have an application for my MacBook called Memory Diag, D-I-A-G. And what it is it cleans up RAM space by deleting a lot of stuff that sits in your cache files. And yeah, it helps out a lot. But with that being said, let's get into the song itself. So Jin is obviously in the BPM of 150. So a lot of the things you guys are going to learn about me is that I'm a very simplistic producer. I try not to overcomplicate and worry too much about sound design. I try not to worry too much about being or making super crazy sounds as much as I do trying to make a cohesive song. So we're gonna start over here in the effects, where a lot of the work is a lot of the song is actually driven through the effects. So we're gonna start off over here and just play the effects group itself. We got some cymatic downlifters, some cashmere reverse synths going on here. Run diag, yes. Cash, hey, cash. There we go. Then we got a nice vocal energy booster with ample space delay on it, you know. So we EQ'd out all the low end so that we don't have to have any of the low end frequencies, you know, even trying to clash. And then I did a little bit of high end boosting because the sample itself did not have a lot of high end on it that as much as I wanted it to be. You're never supposed to tell him that. Yeah. So, and then I have an ample space delay here, which is a rack that I randomly found. I don't know how. It was just in one of my folders. And it has nice area for me to delay time, delay feedback, adjust the chorus rate, adjust the chorus feedback, etc., etc. So, and then as you can see, this is what I have it. I have the rack volume at 0.0 because I want it to be very prominent. My dry wet is at 62% because if it was at 100%, it would be way too delayed, and that's not any fun. And then I have my flanger rate at 3. You know, flanger's cool and whatnot, but overused in songs can make it sound like you just recorded it off your DJM 900. And then my delay time is at 41. I actually I'm not the most technical producer in the world, so I'm going to assume that that's milliseconds, but it also might be the dry wet, so I'm not really too sure. And then my feedback is at 25%. Higher the feedback, the more the delay will mess around in the spectrum. Sometimes your delay can end up being stereo. Sometimes, I mean, like most of the times, it ends up going into stereo, so it'll sound really weird, etc. So we're just gonna play that back. So that's just the vocal energy booster, and what that is doing is that is providing a background for my break leads. So if I play the leads and just the booster itself, you can see that the booster is peaking up in front of the synths, in front of the big leads, and it's not too high to the point where it's annoying. It's in an area where it can at least add texture and more space to a sound that otherwise would be very mono. So yeah, let's continue with the effects. Have some cymatics risers in here that are in key. And yeah, and I have the effects automated so the mixer turns off as soon as it gets to the pre-drop vocal, so that none of the frequencies or none of the leftover reverb or any of the tails can get into the spot where the pre-drop vocal is supposed to be. That way I don't, you don't end up cluttering that pre-drop vocal space. Because I feel like that's really one of the main things that drives your songs is a good pre-drop vocal. So having that there and having it in a clear space really just helps you with all sorts of different things. I haven't touched into so Cole Culver asked, I haven't touched into racks yet. Have they helped you a lot in your production? Yes, racks are lifesavers. So there are a lot of people who are very technical producers who love making racks, which is awesome. For me, I'm not somebody who's very versed on pretty much anything that comes to post-processing. I mean, I pretty much do it all by ear for the most part. So having somebody who's made a rack that's ready there for me to use, where I can use in my own creative way, it just helps save time. It just helps me get to where I'm trying to go without having to run through a million different steps to get there, not knowing how to do it. It would be cooler if I learned how to do it, but this racks are like the easy way, but it's not cheating. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue. Inside of our intro, we also have the lead that you guys are hearing. Well, the leads. There are multiple of them. So let's just start off with over here. So I'm going to break down the group itself. I'm going to play for you, and then I'm going to break down the group individually. So yeah, so there's a lot going on here. Let me break it down in the most simplistic way I can. So, Benjamin asked, where do you recommend getting racks? They're all over the place. If you do some deep diving, you'll find some really, really good ones. Sitting on YouTube. YouTube is a great place to look for stuff. There are a lot of other producers who have great racks. Dr. Ozzy has some great racks. Moonboy has some great racks. There's a lot of people out there that have great racks, all sorts of stuff. So just kind of depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, it's YouTube, Facebook groups. I'm sure you can find what you're looking for. Bandcamp has some too. So it just kind of depends. Okay, so we'll start off with the break ambiences, because I have a group in a group. So I have two groups in my break group. One is the break lead. The break leads are everything in general. And then I have my break ambiences, which is every ambience that I'm using, or anything that's to fill up background space, or anything to fill up a spectrum, but that is not the driving main force of my song. So any sort of effects or any sort of effects with a key to it, with a tone to it. And then I have my large break group. And inside of my large break group, that's where I put my main lead, and such. Let me adjust these mic levels really fast. Level the mic to be a couple dB louder than the project, and we're golden. Okay, cool. Let's just go about right here. Dope. Okay. Make sure that one sounds as good as I'm hoping for it to be. Okay, so like I just explained, I have my break ambiences and my large break. So these two are everything that I'm using inside of my intros and my breaks. So let's just run through what ambiences I'm using. So here I have a Cymatics Project X ambience B, no effects on it, just the straight ambience. kind of get a gist of that. And then here in the build-up, I have it chopped up. So to kind of go along with the pauses in stutter that I have on the build-up, and then I have a war horn. It was originally in the key of G. I brought it down to the key of D sharp and applied a mids processor and took away some of the low end in this area here, so you can kind of see the 50, 60 hertz range, 60, 65 hertz range. And yeah, and so then the horn itself here sounds like, and originally sounded like. So as you can see, I'm trying to boost some of my mids in here, and give it more of a mono, but more of a mono sound, but also more characteristic. Like the mids to me have such a comforting feel and warmth, so you just want to make sure that you mess with the mids a little bit so that you can kind of get this flare and fill up some of that spectrum space, so that you're not just leaving a dry empty space between highs and lows. And then here you can see I have a Kashmir sitar sample with a Valhalla vintage verb with my mix at, this is, by the way, this is the default preset for vintage verb. If you don't know what vintage verb is Valhalla's amazing reverb plugin. They make multiple reverb plugins. If you were ever trying to look for great reverb or great delay or reverb modulation stuff, Valhalla has what you're looking for. So Valhalla gives you a default preset, and what I do is I take my decay time to 4 seconds, which you can see here, and I take my mix to 34%. Not on everything. It all varies from different sounds, but for me on the sitar sound, I really wanted the real focus of it to be the fact that it was spacey. So yeah, and on this sitar sample I pitched it up 3 semitones to D sharp minor, and then we went from there, we went to the Ableton audio effects. You go over here to EQ8, and then I went to instrument. Now please do not sleep on this. This is a very important thing. Ableton has created for you multiple different presets for EQ that are perfectly tailored or are just slightly away from what you are looking for when you are EQing a sample or a sound. So for me, the acoustic guitar EQ number 1, which is this preset here, fit amazingly into what I was trying to achieve with the sound on the Kashmir sample. Alex asked, can you speak a bit to using samples and loops and how it doesn't matter what you use but how you use it? Correct. So one common theme that I really want to drive home when I am doing a stream on production, loops are very okay to use because they were created for some reason, right? Producers don't just sit back and create loops, for fun or for no one to ever touch them. They're so that you can add your creative spike to them. Commonly in the hip hop community, producers will use loops to help them fill up their song in ways that they could never do before. So it should be no different translating into EDM, especially inside of dubstep. A lot of things you want to sound a certain way, and the loop has the sound that you're trying to achieve. There's no issue in using the loop. The only issue is when you're not being creative in the way that you use the loop. So for me, I find creativity in layering loops with multiple other sounds and finding a way to make it all work cohesively, and I want it to scream Nazaar. So how do I make it scream Nazaar? The only way is to create and curate a vibe in my song that carries uniqueness to me. So for me, that's why I don't see an issue in using loops. It's not about what you use, it's about how you use it. That's pretty much how I look at things. So with that being said, the sitar loop here you can hear is obviously the reverb is doing a lot of work, giving it space, because without it, actually without anything on it, it almost is just super plain and has no character besides the fact that it's an ethnic sample. So it does sound a little bit, has some flavor, some twang, but it's not really there yet. Then you throw the EQ on it, kind of get that. Now you're bringing up some of those mids in that 100 pass range. You gotta bring up some of those highs in the 10K-ish range. You cut out the low. But then really, the magic happens in the reverb. Now I got space, right? I have this whole dynamic area to really, bring a vibe in. Doesn't feel like a loop anymore. It feels like a cohesive sample, like something that's real. So that to me is how that felt. I have that accompanied with an air horn, also with the ample space delay. So without it, it would sound like. With the ample space delay, like I said, reverb makes ambience, makes space, gives you more of an area to kind of not have to fill up in the mix down later on. In regards to this same topic, what is your feeling on that with bass one shots and bass loops that are already really processed? We're going to get to that. Hold on to your thought there. I promise you I'm going to answer when we get to the drop. Let's continue. So far I have broken down everything in my ambiences. So now let's move on to my large break, which altogether sounds like. So I originally took this Psy one-shot effect from Kashmir, which I believe sounds a bit like this. Yeah. It's. If I bring the whole loop out, it's kind of like this. So I took that sound. I really liked that little end part. This little kind of like. And so I wrote this with it. So what's going on here is, let's do this. Let's turn all the effects off so you can hear what it sounds like without any effects. This is without any mixing effects. Okay, you kind of get the point, right? So what I did is I went ahead and I added and applied the similar EQ that I've done to most other parts of the leads of this song and the ambiences, and I went ahead and I took out all the low end. Even though there wasn't a lot peeking through, it's always safer to just take away the low end. You never can tell whether sometimes you got something sitting down in a really low frequency range and it'll mess up and phase or whatever, so you kind of want to get away from that. So I EQ that out. I gave some high end range because I have a lot of ambiences that are sitting in the mids range, right? and I'm already going to create a low end patch version, so there's something needs to give in the mids. And then my high end range, I kind of gave it more depth and kind of like boosted it a bit, high shelved it. And then I have this chain here, which I really forgot where I got this from, but this is a Nightmare chain. I'm not sure if this is actually Nightmare's chain or if this is a chain that somebody created to create an effect similar to Nightmare. Totally forgot where I got this from. But basically you can see two multi-band compressions here. And basically what exactly it's doing is it is all the inputs are
make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer in every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
Are boosted by 5 dB. 5, 5.10, and 9. I mean 8. And then my amount is at 100%. Without it, it would kind of sound like. And then you bring back that multi-band. It's very slight, very unnoticeable, quite in fact, but I mean, like, in the mix, it just makes it makes a lot of sense when you listen to it all as a whole. And then I have a vintage finalizer at the end, which basically I can just kind of like readjust my comp attack, my comp release, my comp thresh, my ratio. I can adjust the saturator drive. I can adjust the color of the saturator, and when I say color, I mean like the vibrance of the sound itself, and the saturator in general really helps out. I have the saturator 100%, so if I take the saturator all the way down, very like unnoticeable, but it's there. And then obviously I have some sidechain here, which I actually don't. Yeah, it's sidechained, and this is sidechaining to my kick, which is the Remedy kick number 1, right there on track number 33, with my gain at 24, and my mix at 100%, and my dry wet at 100%. Then let's go over Camel Crusher. This is Camel Crusher. If you guys don't know what this is a distortion, a clean distortion, and a heavy distortion plugin. It is very, very, very tiny, but it helps out a lot. It's very powerful. But basically without it, with it. So in Camel Crusher you get many different presets. I like British Clean a lot. When I get the British Clean, I tend to not adjust any of the filter, distortion, or the compressors from their given presets. What I end up doing is I end up bringing up the mix and volume. So typically the volume will be around right here. I like to boost that up. I like to not make it 100% of the mix, but more like, 85%. So that it kind of just helps out. Fill up some room, give it some clean distortion, give it a little twirl. Back to what I was saying about Vintage Verb. Now we got Vintage Verb filling up some space. As you can hear, Vintage Verb really helping out. And then we got the DJM filter, which is a free filter that is actually designed to be exactly like the one from the Pioneer DJM series mixers. It is literally the exact same mixer. This one is going to be automated. Actually, this one's not even on. I'm not even using this one at all. We'll get towards using this later on. I don't know why I had this just sitting here, but this is exactly a DJM filter, and it helps. It's really simple. I can show you guys quickly what it does. All it does is low pass, high pass. Simple. Helps out, doesn't get in the way of anything. And yeah. How does having chains ready to go help you stay in the creative flow? For me, personally, I like to I hear the song in my head, and so when I hear the song in my head, I want to be able to write it down as fast as I can, get to the final product or where I'm trying to go as fast as I can. And not that I'm in any sort of rush, but then I don't want the idea to escape me, so I'm kind of wondering, how do I get there faster? Having chains ready to go really helps out, really gives me the ability to say, I don't have to worry too much about going in and individually creating every effect. When I have a chain ready to go, boom, slap that on and we're ready to go in an instant, and we don't have to worry about anything else, you know? Also, I have at the same time, so we just went through the sigh effect, which I sampled out. Now we have, this was originally a synth loop from Kashmir, which I will show you what it sounded like before I cut it up. It was kind of like this. I cut up a sound and I used it right here. As you can see, some of y'all may be wondering, okay, so what is this, right? You're seeing some sort of shadow here. So let me explain this, because you're going to see this quite a lot through a lot of my production. And this is kind of a way that I manually create some sort of sidechain or a volume fade without automating. This in Ableton is called a fade. It basically is a on the sample volume automator. You can put it that way. I think that's the easiest way to put it. What I did was I found the portion of the sample that I liked and I cut it. And I went to exactly the length that I wanted it to be, cut it again. You can see here in the four corners there are different little things that you can move, different little tabs. What I did was, this will adjust the end or the tail. So boom. Now, before, and if I wanted to get rid of the head, all I had to do, or if I wanted to make it more, you know, sidechain vibe-ish, I can just so that's what I did there, and you can kind of hear it when I go. And this processing is really simple. So let's just run through really fast. Let's turn everything off. So we have the original sound at and then we get back and we go over here, and what we do is, what I did personally is I EQ'd out all my low end, as you can see right here, in this area. I don't like anything. If I'm gonna create a mid-range sample or a high-end sample, I would rather prefer not having to deal with any low end at all. That way, when I get to the processing time, which you will see here in Overdrive, I don't have to worry too much that I'm going to be processing the low end, or that the low end is going to make some sort of difference in the sound that I won't get where I want to go with the sound. So I just ahead of time, to save me the heartbreak, I'll get straight to the point and I'll just EQ out the low end. And I just wanted a little bit of the mids to pop out here, so I did do a boost on the low to the mid, as you can see here on this curve. And as simplistic as it is, that's what that is. It's in the beginning of my chain, because I want, as soon as I hear the sound, I want it to be EQ'd through. I don't want it to be EQ'd after my effects or after my processing. I just want it to be EQ'd then and there, and that way I can process after the fact. So, processing, let's go through this. Ableton has a beautiful saturator distortion plugin called Overdrive, which you can find right, if I knew the English alphabet, I could find it. It's right there. Okay, so right there is Overdrive. Overdrive I use a lot. It is a lifesaver for me, because without it, in just the EQ by itself, and with it, and without it, and with it. So kind of gives you the idea, right? I'm boosting a grittier sound using the mids range and using some of the tools that I've presented right in front of me, which is the drive and the tone, which you can see right here. Dynamically, when you drop overdrive in, you will see that it is automatically set to 50-50 on the dynamics of dry and wet. All I did in this instance was adjust the curve here on the hertz value to what I heard was correct for me, which for me was the 1.04 kilohertz range. And then I adjusted my drive up, and then I adjusted my tone up, and my tone was sitting somewhere around 67. Cool, that sounded good to me. I left it there. So pretty much play around with the effects and you'll kind of get to where you want to go. And then after that, I applied 2 side chains because I wanted the side chain to be very important to me on this factor of it. Because when it's going through the build-up, there are a lot of drums, and this can end up sticking up in front of the drums, and it wouldn't have sounded pretty. So I did sidechain that, and then at the end, because of the fact that sidechain was taking away some of my sound, right? When you sidechain things, it's like a volume automator. Like basically, it pumps every time a sample. If you manually automate every time a sample is playing on the grid, as long as you have your sidechain assigned to that sample, every time that sample plays, the sound that has the sidechain applied to it will duck in volume. So hence you will lose a lot of the processing value depending on how many times you play the one sample that you have this sound sidechain to. And so for that reason, I put Camel Crusher at the end of my chain and boosted the same way I did the others on the British Clean, and kind of just left it there. And this is an exact copy of this, but with a different EQ wave, and obviously not missing the overdrive, so we'll go through that. Let me answer some of these questions really fast. Can you speak to producing with an idea in mind? Do you always do that, or sometimes are you just messing around in Ableton? It's a combination of both, I guess. For the most part, when I start a song, let's speak to the song that's in front of us. When I started this song, I was messing around with this sound, which I'm about to go over in a little bit. I was messing around with this, which is a Sultan sample. And once I had like a few things here, I was like, okay, now we need to write a song. So for me, I go in with an idea sometimes. I go in messing around sometimes. I think it all just kind of depends on my mood. But it's never wrong to do it either way. Just depends on how you want to do it, really. So for the other break lead here, we're going to go over... this has a EQ8 with all the low end taken out, but except shelved. So this kind of like letting a little bit of that low end peek through in that 10 hertz area, and like kind of making sure that I don't worry too much about that 59 hertz area, so it's kind of out of the area. Then I did a mid and a high end boost to kind of make sure it sounded good. This is a really weird EQ curve. Sometimes people are like, what the hell is going on here? But the end product sounded like this. And this was what was giving me my low end for these, if you put these 3 sounds together. So as you can see, I'm not too attacky on the low end of it, because I didn't want that to be the focus in this area. I kind of wanted the high end leads to be focused, but it still needed some low end to fill up the spectrum, so this is what's doing that. British Clean here, DJM filter for the build up because it sweeps on the automation, or not, I guess, or it's just kind of on and just not doing anything. I don't know why I do that. Sometimes I just add random stuff and then never use it again. Shows you my disorganized mind. And then I have it sitting at negative 1.5 dB so that it's not really clashing with anything else, and I kind of get to use it exactly how I was using it before, so you kind of get the idea there. And then we have the claps. Claps, energy booster, They're barely noticeable in the background, but you kind of hear it, and you kind of, you get the vibe of it, and it kind of keeps the flow going, so you kind of get the idea. Are you more of a sample manipulator or a VST guy? I am far more a sample manipulator than I am a sound designer. I'm just not that great at sound design. I never really made it my focus, and I kind of really don't understand a lot of the things. Serum is an amazing VST. Don't get me wrong, I use Serum a lot. But it's more me messing with knobs than really knowing what I'm doing in Serum. So I can't really speak to like being a very hefty sound designer. I am just I pride myself on sample manipulation more than anything else in the world. So that's kind of like one of my things. Let's continue. We're gonna play the build section so you can kind of hear what's going on over here. So in this build section, what you're hearing is kicks, claps, snare, some more claps, and then I used a build-up loop from Cymatics here to kind of give it just a little more twang. And all together, I added some stutters at the end of every 4-bar phrase, filled up with random little fill samples. I think that's a gunshot. And then another one on the stutters. And you kind of get the whole idea here, and it's kind of like... really simple, really no crazy things going on over here. I basically took a snare, created the pattern, Command J on Ableton condenses everything into one loop, so that way I can manipulate it all at once, and then I transposed from 0 semitones to 12 semitones, which is exactly 1 octave, and you can hear that pitch automation kick in. I have it set on complex so that I don't have any problems, because in beats this is what it would sound like. So complex kind of like gives it more liquidity so that you can pretty much do as you please, and the sample will not, the transients will not mess around. Word of advice though, you do lose some transient value when you just use complex. That's why I use complex pro, and then I can mess with the formants a little bit, so I can kind of make sure I'm not going too straying away from losing the value of the sound in the transients. And then we're using this build up loop, which ties together with these. And then I have a DJM filter on the group with slight automation to high pass it so that it's not getting super chaotic towards the end when the drums all start clashing, and sounds like more of one cohesive riser than anything else. In my effects my effects folder, which is kind of where the magic is happening here, you hear my risers. Everything is cut at the end of those 4-bar phrases to follow the stutters, so we're not losing anything really. And then the vocal energy is still inside of there to fill up space that we may not have filled up before. So, and I took that sample and transposed it so it acts as a riser. And then we have some impacts here that are kind of giving us some. So you can kind of hear that. So yeah, that's what's going on in our build up. I know somebody previously had asked, how did I make it go faster? Basically, there's no like, I didn't automate any of the BPM. I didn't change the BPM in the song to make it go faster. All it was a cut up of the drums. So pretty much you can see how I have the snare going from the classic 4/4 pattern, or the kick, sorry, bum 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 bum, like the 4 on the floor, to double time, to triple time, and then same thing with the snares and the claps and everything else. Actually, so the clap here you can see is on double time. And snare is on triple time already. So, and then another quadruple, as you can hear. So then I kind of build up a cohesive energy, so I'm kind of like, cool. So let's get into the drop, because I know you guys are really wondering what's going on here. So this might look really ugly to you. You might say, whoa, what's going on here? But let's just dive right into it, because there's not really a lot happening. We got a drop kick here, which is 3 kicks in total, all layered. So it gives that nice vibe. I have on my master, the reason why that's not an issue is because I have a glue compressor with a limiter, and make sure that I already have a pre-EQ ready to go, so I'm not worried about anything dynamically. So I have those 3 kicks I can punch straight through. Snare. So as you can see with my snare, I have done a lot of layering. I have this distorted snare here with the remedy snare, with another trap snare, with a clap, with another clap. Well, not a clap, this is more of a snare. Layered all together inside of one group, sounds like. Then in the group I have a utility, and with that utility I boosted it up 4.44 dB so that my snare really pops out of there and gets some of its proper recognition that it deserves. Okay, so we're gonna go to the sub here. Cymatic sub, as you can see, really simple. Put it in beats, because if I put it in complex, it's gonna sound really liquidy. Beats just keeps everything together, transients wise. Sidechain. As you can see here, it's sidechain to the kick. So you can hear it ducking. And then have the hats going on over here. Hats are really simple. Faded, this crash from Cymatics. Another like crash sample from Sultan. And a ride. And there's really no processing on any of this, just besides the fact that we have the crash from Sultan and the Sultan ride are brought down about -1.5 and -4.5, so that all these hats don't clash. Because I wanted my crash to be the main focus of my hats, so you can kind of see how I did that. And can you touch on not really giving a fuck when redlining your snare bus into the master? So I'm not really a bus person, because I have a cohesive master chain that I built off of the Tassion one that he was doing with Cymatics a while back. I kind of built my master chain off of his and then did stuff to my preferences. Basically, what I did was initially I just had a negative 7.33 on the gain on the utility in the beginning of the master chain, so that I can redline the fuck out of anything I want, and I won't be redlining my master as much as I wanted it to. Everything else here is just kind of for mixing value. So we got a bit warmer and an EQ8 and an OTT and compression. So it doesn't really matter essentially. How are you not clipping? LMAO. It's all in the master chain. But yeah, let's get into the drop synths, because I know you guys are really wondering what's going on here. Sultan sample right here. Really simple. There's no processing. I didn't even care to process it. What it was is I took out all the low end, and because I had a sub to replace it with. Then I put a Camel Crusher on it. So without it, it was just take out the low end, do some more bass processing. So you just did some more low end, take away some of the high frequencies, and just kind of like sit it and shelve it. Now add the Camel Crusher with the British Clean at the end, and boom, you're good. Here, I took a Cymatics one shot, and if we turn off everything here, let's just open up the one shot itself. It sounded like this. Let's take off the... Yep. So we had that going on over there. Take that off. So what I did was, first things first, EQ out the low end. You guys are getting the idea here. Then we went to Serum Effects. Just wait for this godforsaken thing to load up. We had a comb filter on it. Cutoff sitting about 44 Hertz. We got the FX filter res at 15%. Drive at 40%. Damp at 36% with a mix of 100% to give us an effect that kind of sounds like this. Without it, with it. Then obviously a sidechain. And then a Yo-Man, which is a effects inside of the chorus. So if you go over here to chorus, and you can pretty much just get this. It's called a Yo-Man. Gives you this kind of like metallic-y, flangy vibe. Really cool. So I didn't really adjust anything besides the feedback here, which is at 56, but you can do something like this. I had it around here because this is where I liked it. And cool. And then I got a Valhalla vintage verb to fill up some space for me, give me a little tail. Boom. Right here, I had a old song which I had used. So funny thing is, this is actually a recorded in sample. I'll play this for you really fast. I had an old song which I had actually recreated a trampa bass, and I used it in the song, but I actually lost the project file. But I thought, damn, I want to use that sound. So I went and found the stems that I had originally sent to a friend for a collaboration. When the friend didn't want to use the sound, I just took it back, and I realized that I had forgotten to take the kick out of the sound, so I had to resample it. That's without any of the effects. So I said, God damn it, why would I do this to myself? So I EQ'd out the low end. Still see I got that punch in it. I was a little annoyed, so I went to Serum Effects, opened up Serum Effects, And then I got into the Combs filter again, did one very much the same thing, 44 hertz with 15% FX filter resolution, with filter drive at 40%, with my dampness at 36%, with my mix all the way up, and it kind of gave me this effect. So I got rid of the kick finally, right? And I had this more comey sounding sound that I really liked. Turned on a compressor. I am only... This project is almost a year old, so I have a little bit of my... It has still a lot of the techniques that I use now, like just pretty much everything I do now. But now I do sidechain to my snare a bit more. But in this instance, I did not. So, but for the most part, really what's important is that you sidechain to that kick, because that kick is giving the song the real power. So yeah. Then I put vintage verb here. Fill up a little bit of space. But then I thought, how would the reverb sound with a chorus effect on it? With the Yo Man going in with that same feedback. And it sounded good, so I just left it. And then yeah, that kind of gave me this whole sound. And then I layered that with my sustain basses. You've heard these sustain basses before in some of my other songs, but this is the classic Yoi sustain bass that I use. Let's open it up. It's a Yoi from Filthy Patches, but I basically took the LFO and widened it out so it never ends. And then I adjusted the wavetable a little bit to where I wanted it to be, and I adjusted the wavetable position a little bit and the cutoff value to give me that effect. And I layered that with something very... Well, let's go through the processing of this first. It was cut out all the low end. So that's with the low end. We didn't really like that sound there that we had going on, so we went sidechain, double value sidechain. I did double sidechain so I can get double the amount of volume being ducked out from it, so that I can get the kick to shine through. Flanger gives it a slight little itty bitty effect. If I
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer. In every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
If I bring it to 100%, it'll phase. I wanted it at 44, so I kept it at 44. Camel Crusher to give that some more value there. And then we did a utility because I wanted it to boost up a little bit in the mix. So I did a 2.2 dB volume up from where it was originally at 0. And I layered that with exactly the same everywhere on the processing. The only difference here is that inside of Serum, dude, please excuse this disgusting amount of lag. We have a different wavetable position with a different bend, so it's giving us a different effect on the output. And if you put those two together, you kind of get... So it's kind of... This is a little more like tangy, kind of like a little more... I don't even know the word to put it is. High-endy. With the mids and more mids here. And they both have different values. As you can see, one's a little more higher pitched. And cool. So all that put together, we get when we go over here, you can notice that there's a different sound. It's the exact same, but lower in pitch value and different wavetable positions every time. The processing is all the same. But as you can see, the wavetable's position are just changing on oscillator B and oscillator A to give different effects. And that's just coming from me really messing around. Because like I said before and stated before in the stream, I'm not the biggest sound designer in the world. So I'm not really big on like sitting there and really like tweaking and trying to get this sound this way, and I gotta root through here and that, but I don't understand it. My brain just can't put my mind around it. So I just mess with different knobs until I get it to where I want it to be, and that's the instance in here, as you can see with the sustains. So we go from over here to back to. Can you touch on why you don't move any of the compressor stock settings of Ableton's compressor for side chaining when some people might tear their hair around trying to tweak the perfect settings? As simple as this is, I can show you. Go to compressor, open that up and toggle sidechain. Let's just say we want to sidechain this to the kick. Sidechain to kick. These are the stock settings right here. Well, all I've done is assigned where I'm going to sidechain this to. What I do for my sidechain is I take the gain and I run that to 100%, which is 24 dB. It's going to have you set at 0 dB, which is stock value. You're going to want to bring that to 24. You're going to notice a sound difference, but you're not going to sit here and say, this is perfect. So this is why I like, for the sample manipulators out there who are wondering how to get that perfect sidechain, this, along with the fading technique that I showed you earlier, will give you the exact amount of volume automation that you want to let your drums breathe. On synths, for me, on VST sounds, on Serum sounds, sometimes I don't want that duck, so I won't go crazy. But basically all it is I took the same way I did that compressor, I just did it twice. All I did was do one, copy and paste, done. So with that being said, when I did the copy and paste and it was done, it gave me more of a duck in my sound. You can like literally hear inside of the sound where the kick is hitting, and you don't even have to hear the kick. So that's the beautiful part to me. And accompanied with making sure that you sidechain pretty much everything that needs to be sidechained. Because here I don't have a sidechain because I'm literally physically automating the sample, right? With the fade. And there's no kick on this part. So here I have sidechain running once because it already ducked enough of the audio out of it as is. Boom, I was good. Here in my sustains, because they were so loud and out of whack that I had to sidechain them twice. And so you kind of see the idea, right? Here we are. At the end of every 4 bars, I have a fill with the pull up the tune. Just some cool little samples, as you can hear. Some gunshots. I mean, this is a gun cocking, I think. Can't you just use a ghost sidechain to make it? Yeah, you could. There's different ways to do sidechain. That's just one that I find more convenient. Back to the build-up. Here I have, in my effects, a reverse synth and vocal from Cashmere, so you can hear. Boom. So, okay, let's answer some of these questions. Where do I find vocals? I pretty much have, as you can see on the side here, I have a billion samples. And go over here to like different sample packs that I have inside of my sample packs. So kind of like depends on what you want to do. So I just kind of source everything from everywhere, and then kind of just download as many sample packs and find cool vocals. Splice is a good area to look for stuff too. Let's quickly just run over drop 2 and drop 3 before we get to the next song, so I can just quickly show you. This is drop 2. These are the basses. The glitches that you're hearing are Virtual Riot. Just took that, cut it up exactly how I wanted it. No processing really. I have this BSS hard fill here. Another Virtual Riot. Cashmere had a really nice bass impact that I wanted to use. All I really did was the same thing I've been showing you before. And then same sound that I was using on the previous one that I sampled out. And then we got some serums here. So this is a Virtual Riot sound that I messed around with for hours. When in your production chain do you throw on your master chain, or where in your production process? Right in the beginning, because I love that I can produce and have a mix down and everything ready to go as soon as I'm done. Kind of a rhetorical question, was anyone ever asked, call you out for using a sample? Yes. Actually, very famously, somebody called me out for using a Monk's clap, Monk's snare in my song with Carnage, Blitzkrieg. And it caught some fire a little bit on the Facebook communities for the rhythm stuff. And to them, I just say, I don't give a fuck. I mean, like, it's just a drum sample. Just fucking put it in your song and use it. I'm going to use whatever sounds I have available to me the best way I can. And whether somebody cares or somebody doesn't, if the song is dope and you listen to it, that's it. That's all that matters to me. I don't have to be the most technical producer in the world. We got a Virtual Riot bass here, which I messed around with. I changed the wavetable. I changed the FM from B value a little bit. And then the cutoff is automated in the matrix. To give it that effect. So with that little tail end, I had a little fun making these. And there's really no automation going on here, so you're not going to worry about nothing. And then we did some layering, and we got another serum over here. And that is a very similar Virtual Riot's sound. And all I did was, I actually changed a lot in this sound. I changed the wavetable again. Changed from, originally Virtual Riot had used one of his own custom wavetables on Oscillator B. I changed to basic shapes. I changed the wavetable position, put a filter on it, and automated the transform so that I can get these weird, cool sounds that you're hearing here. Layered once again. Once again, you can see I am automating the filter cutoff as well as the transform. Copy and paste. And with a layer down here of a similar sounding sound with a different wavetable position and a different FM from B value, so that we can create some depth in our layering. As you can see, and put that all together and you get Guess what? Guess what? Monk snare. Suck it, rhythm kids. Yeah. Tying in hat loop because I really love that hat loop. And then we're doing all that. Transform is not a physical macro that it actually exists inside of Serum. It is something that you assign and then create a name for. I assigned it to the filter so that I can transform the value of the sound, and then I just named it transform. So yeah, kind of a general idea that you see there. Cool. Then we're going to go just quickly skim through. You kind of get the idea here. We got some chants going out. No processing really at all, actually. Got the whoop, which is just a whoop sound I found somewhere. Put it in there. And cool, we're good to go. We kind of got the idea there, right? Yep, I hope so. And we got a little bit of that snare just sticking in there. Give that top end transient value, you know, kind of make sure shit pops out. Cool, we're on to the break. Nothing really special going on here. We got a downlifter from Cymatics with a sweep accompanying it. Sweep impact. More reversed vocal sounds. Same thing we went on the intro, then we got the same exact build up, and then on our third drop we got you guys may recognize this lead. This is my signature lead that I use for Legacy, and you're gonna hear it in an upcoming song of mine. Kinda don't want to give away too much on the sauce on that, but a lowered version of that. And the same main lead that you're hearing from the first drop. Boom. Do I pan my sounds? No. Most of this depends on the song. Obviously on this one, no. But for the most part, sometimes I will. Yes. But all my subs and my basses are in mono, and then sometimes I'll stereo stuff. Basic fill, I'm sure you guys have heard this kind of shit before. It's just a little laser. We got the little and classic trap pattern on the drums. Then the little change up here. Sub is really simple, once again. Just a Cymatics 808. All I did was add some erosion to it and compress it, sidechain compression. With another one with Serum effects going on it to make it a little more fatty. You feel me? Let's open up Serum, cause fucking CPU. Got a diode 1 on that with the drive up a little bit, making sure we got that nice clean with the mix at 100, and you can kind of hear that poke out. Cool. That is Jin, and that is your breakdown of Jin. Let's move on. Let's move on. Dope. In the meantime, while this is opening, does anybody have any questions they want to ask me? How long does it usually take to finish a song? If I put a general time frame behind it, if I'm in the zone and I'm ready to go and I'm going crazy, I'm going nuts, I will finish a song in 3 hours. 3 hours. If I'm on a creative binge and I'm just sifting through ideas, it can take me anywhere from 3 hours to like 5 to 6 days to finish a song. And then in some of the rare cases, like I have some songs I've been sitting on for like months, so I'll start, get through middle, and then be done with it in like 6 months. Just it really depends. How do you know where to put those little fills in the drop? Rule of thumb is to go on the 2, 4, 6, 8. So think about it in the even spaces. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, etc. To me, I love putting a fill every 4 bars. So at the end of the 4 bars, the last bar phrasing in the end of the 4, boom, put a fill. Or the last bar of the end of the 2 bar phrasing, fill. Half of the, like you see what I'm saying? My fills are usually a bar or 2 bars, some rare cases 4 bars, and then with Walls Cave In, we did 8 bar fills. So it just kind of really depends on like where you're feeling the audio sample or wherever you want to put it. But for the most part, right before snares or right towards the end of a phrase, kind of general rule of thumb. What do you usually do when you're feeling creatively blocked to potentially break out of it? For me, I think I spend a lot of time kind of like playing video games, playing Fortnite, hanging out with my little brother, kind of like making an effort to get away from my computer as much as possible. I try to make an effort not to worry too much about finishing music, because you know what, this is supposed to be fun. Music, the creation, the process, everything that goes into creating music is supposed to be really fun. And if you're not having fun with what you're doing, then at the end of the day, you're just going to always creatively feel blocked. So to me, I make music on my time, on the time that I feel that I'm in my best creative zone to make music. And whenever I'm in a block, I try not to focus on the creation. I try to focus on what makes me happy in the time. And sometimes it's I'll play Fortnite, I'll hang out with my little brother, I'll go on runs, hit the gym, go for a drive, hang out with friends. It all kind of just varies, you know. Remember that outside of music, you are a human being. I know sometimes you want to sit back and get locked up and just go crazy and finish an album, and you want to get an EP out, but sometimes take some time to be a human. Take time to sit back and like really create good aesthetics and vibes for yourself. Get you into a zone. Are all your drops 16 bars using short? I think it just varies song to song. I like making a lot of 16 bar drops because it gets straight to the point and it's fun and it's catchy, but it doesn't always have to be. Walls Cave In was like 32 bars each drop, so it was fun. How long have I been making music? I've been making music since I was 14 years old. I'm 20 years old today. So goddamn 6 years now. 6 years. No. Yeah, 6 years. Yeah, I'm 20 years old. So started in Logic Pro. Went from Logic Pro to FL Studio. From FL Studio, I went directly into Ableton because God knows I have no idea how to use FL. Who do you listen to before making tracks? Depends on the song that I'm making. A lot of the times I love listening to a lot of different people. I love Murata, obviously. I love Jekyll and Hyde, Louis J. I love listening to Akios, Sultan, Dr. Ozzy, Heckler Glades. There's DJ Snake, so many people that inspire me that I like to listen to. I love listening to the newer Skrillex stuff. I love listening to RL Grime and Jewels. I listen to pretty much anything and everything, but this is like the vibe what I go for. Kind of like depends on what I listen to on on a daily basis. Okay, let's move on. Let's get into the groove of what we're doing next. This, you guys may or may not know this. I dropped this original song was on my Never Say Die EP, on my Legacy EP. It was called Whiplash. This is the VIP, so I have not released it, so you guys are going to be the first people to hear the song, and you guys are also going to see how I created the song. So let's get into it. I'm going to play the song, I'm going to answer some of your questions, and then we're going to get into it. So in the meantime, while I'm playing the song through, I want you guys to fill up the comments with questions so I can go through and answer when we're done listening to the song.
VIP. VIP.
Cool. Okay. What were some aha moments you've had in production techniques lately? So, an aha moment. So, Heckler actually showed me an insane Max for Live instrument called Grain Scanner. I will show you briefly what it does. Quickly. If it wants to load. Basically what Grain Scanner is, it is a grain centered sampler that pretty much you can do whatever you want with. Let's just take like a Odd Profit sample. Okay, drop it in there, and I can do some cool stuff. all these cool things. Grain scanner. You can adjust the pitch. All sorts of, you can do anything. You can do drum samples, snares, whatever you want. Grain scanner. Boom. Sean Heckler showed me that. And this is a very important tool to a lot of my latest production. So yeah, if you have a little bit of money and you want to go purchase a Max for Live instrument, grain scanner is the wave. That was my aha moment recently. So yeah. Let's go ahead and get into the Whiplash VIP. Let's start off with the intro with what everyone wants to know most. Where do I get my Arabic sounds from? Nazaar, where do you get your Arab sounds from? Alright, this is the saz that you're hearing. This is called a saz. It's an Arab instrument very similar to a clarinet. So, I actually had this sample ready to go from a sample pack that I was going to drop last year. This was a very old Saz MIDI that I had found, that I had tweaked, and then I put a Saz on it from the beautiful Contact, which you can see here if it wants to decide to open up one day, because it may not. Native Instruments has some great native libraries for Contact with many ethnic sounds. And if you go over here to Discovery Middle East, and I got Saz number 1, and I played a. Sorry. Hold on. Let's unsolo that. Whoa, I'm tripping. I said Saz the whole time, and no one stopped me. It was a Zerna. And I just wrote the melody out, and then did some EQing and post processing, and used this beautiful plugin that you can find called Cashmere Exciter Essentials, and threw it on here, and then resampled it out, and I got. This is a tabla loop from same Native Instruments library. Not much going on here in the processing, as you can see. With Zerna, all I did was add reverb. Then we got the My theory is more Zerny, yes. And you didn't stop me, Jeremy. And you didn't stop me. My theory is that Cashmere's Indian samples are all from Contact. It's all in the MIDI. So Cashmere is vastly known for creating his own Contact libraries. He is a genius when it comes to this. What he does is he goes with a giant orchestra or group of people, goes into the studio and records every individual sound in the same notes, played in different ways, and then creates a Contact library where he basically stashes everything and then can play and map it out however he desires, which is why Cashmere is the god of sample manipulation, and using his samples will make you god tier. Let's go into the ambiences. I have a Cashmere ambience drone here in the key of E, which is the key of this song, with a Valhalla vintage verb on it. I do not use a MIDI keyboard, Hunter. I do not. I have an accompanying ambience here in the key of E from Cymatics with no reverb on it. This one's more low end and mid range heavy. Really nice. Gives this one some character. Put the Zerna together. So as you can see, it creates a very, like, you know, mystique and ambience, kind of this little area to mess around and do what you please, and etc. After the 8 bars, we introduce the drums, and in the background, you are hearing a vocal awakening from Kashmir in the key of E with some vintage verb on it. I absolutely love that. It's so angelic. And then you get a reverse synth with an accompanying impact with a sweep. And this is where we're getting to the break. Outside of the intro, inside of the break, we have a Glissentar loop from Kashmir. The original sample had really bad EQing. As you can see, it was kind of all over the place, and it sounded really odd to me, so I did this weird looking EQ here, as you can see, and pretty much enveloped this low end range because I did not like that little tangy low end sound, and did a nice high shelf kind of boosting thing, or high notch boost, gave it this high end vibe, and put some reverb on it, because the thing is, you know, that reverb can give it this nice kind of aesthetic that the high end doesn't take over much of, accompanied with the bass line. As you can hear, I wanted the sub to really stick out. Sub is a Serum sub from my boy Cyclops. And I can show you. Hold up. Cyclops put together this really sick fat sub, and I just used it in Serum, and you can hear it, and it's really simple and there's no processing. Why do I use such a high notch to pass at like 18K? So, like I said before, I'm not the most like versed producer on hertz and all that other kind of stuff. But 18K range was what sounded like it was appropriate, because I was hearing this kind of tang that I didn't really like in that range. And we can kind of go over here into the EQ, and I can show you. As you can see the difference in sound. If you ever hear the actual instrument in real life, the actual Glissentar, it sounds more like. And I wanted to give it more of that realistic vibe, and this was just giving me very like mechanically made vibes. And so that's why I kind of did that. I can hear basically the strums. And that's what I wanted to hear, were the strumming. And that's why I added that in there and accompanied it with the ambient drone, with the hook. the tabla with some more arrow perks and put that all together. Now build up, same thing you're seeing here. Melody plays through. We got this remedy clap. We got a big room kick from Defy. Let me find the original sample. What is this? This was 21. It was this one. So I wanted to give this kind of like vibe on the build up with like this weird sub. So that's what I did. So you can hear that here with the, but it was also a riser at the same time. And then a build up loop from Cymatics. I really liked this snare, the digga 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 digga. So I didn't want to like sit around and recreate it, so I just slapped it in. And an impact. And then effects wise, we got a riser here. And then we got impact. Put that all together, and our build-up sounds like.
Holy shit!
This was a sample that I found somewhere. I don't really remember, but it sounded like this.
Holy shit!
And all I wanted to do is just get rid of that and replace the shit part with a siren. So that gives us.
Holy shit! Holy shit!
Let's get into kicks. Same thing here. Gonna see, kind of just slap 3 kicks into a kick group to give it some more twang. And then as soon as the actual drop started after the fake drop, got a kick here with glue compressor to give it some more low end value, really let it punch. I mean, this one actually has high end value. I forgot about that. Yeah, this one was a little more like, because the original sample by itself was. This just brought out a little more of that high end, so it could punch up over those little low endy thumpy kicks. And boom. And then we got
VIP.
We got the snare here, which is a layer of multiple snares. Nothing really going on the snares. Just slapped all together. And then we got the hats. Same time loop I used before. I fucking absolutely love it. This is a great question, Tristan. So, my kicks are short enough, as you can see. Well, first of all, these are 3 of the same kicks. These 3 are exactly the same. So, if you play them all together, it's just going to sound like one volumized version. In comparison to... So, they all have the same low end value. And that's why. And I typically do that for the most part, anyways, is I will make sure to keep 3 of the same exact kicks in a layer, and then I will go around and mess with that kick depending on how I see fit. But in this instance, I don't know why I wanted to use something with a little more high end on it. And boom, that's exactly what I did there. So yeah, I can't really give you one straight answer. It's kind of just how I did it. And then you can see here I have these 2 offbeat snares, just remedy snares. This is the fills group. I put all my fills in the group.
VIP.
Just went to Google Translate.
VIP.
Cool little shots that you hear left and right. How did you initially start getting your tracks played out by notable DJs? Like, any advice on sending stuff off? I think for me, when I started getting my stuff played out, it was mostly because I was just dropping music like crazy. That's one thing I kind of want to get into everyone's head, is the only way to really get attention is if you just start putting out music. The more music you put out, the more stuff you put into the universe, the more you consistently promote your music and try to really, like, get your name out there, the more people will be drawn to the whole atmosphere of who is this guy, what kind of music does he make, what does he do. And that's really valuable and can really help bring a lot of support to you down the line. When your tracks are good and people start playing them out, your name is also relative to that, which is kind of like something that I did over time, was just put out music, and when it would get the right repost, or when it would get the right Spotify playlisting or whatever, people would reach out to me and say, hey, like, yo, this song is sick, let's work on something. Or, yo, I see we're playing in the same city next week, let's link up. Or, yo, I'm coming to your city in a month. Stuff like that was kind of how over time I built, like, relationships and getting my stuff out there. But for beginners and for people who are just starting to release music, I think it's really important to just put your stuff out there consistently, get into cool repost chains, consistently be trading off and sending off promo emails, stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's kind of like one of the more important things. How would you respond to people who, on the contrary, are stockpiling tracks in lieu of big brand release? I think don't negate the fact that this is art. That's what I would say. If you are an artist, you are going to want your art to be seen and to be understood. And if you continue to allow your hard work and effort to be shelved until you feel is correct, until the timing you feel is correct, then you're kind of like undermining your hard work and your value. For me, putting out songs allowed me to get a lot of constructive criticism from other people on how to make my songs better. Otherwise, if I wouldn't have put out the song, I would have never gotten the criticism from people that I don't even know. It's really important to put out songs, to get out of your comfort zone, to make sure that even though you're not making your top quality right now, you could be making your best quality based off of feedback that you get. And it's really important that you get that feedback. It's really important that you put the songs out and make it known that you're attempting to do certain things. And in turn, it's only going to benefit you. So I think it's really smart in that facet if you put out more music. It helps you develop a style too. So it's kind of my way of looking at it. I'm not entirely too, I'm not the number one person to ask about that. But yeah, let's get on to the sound design of the drop here. So once again, the rhythm kids are going to hate me. But let's start. We got this Virtual Riot one shot layered with this. It's a silent growl. It's called Barf. Letting it open up. But yeah, oh my god, Serum. Okay. So as you can see, it's pretty dope. It's got some weird filtery stuff going on over here. You can adjust in the macros. You can, or in the mod, you can adjust the yuck or the vibrate or whatever. I think I put the vibrate at 100%. The yuck kind of just does this. I just had it over here. Cool. Kind of get the idea. Layered together, you get this. Boom. Coming on to this is more of a layer to give this more. This is kind of the concentration here. I just wanted it to have a more low-endy pluckish thing going on. Like, not low-endy, but it gives it the false narrative that it is low-endy. It's kind of like a mid-range pluck thing going on. So it's like this Virtual Riot one-shot called 1010. I don't know if what is this, like a loop? No, it was literally just like a one-shot, I think. Yeah, exactly like. So all I did was just take that and loop that for a few bars throughout the whenever this is playing. I have it directly layered with this main lead, so it's, as you can see, it's kind of giving it that little top end. And all of that is being carried off of this sub cymatics erosion with wide noise with that 2.5. Boom. Then we got that serum going on over here. So let's just go through these sounds real fast. We got the roughneck sound here. It's supposed to be an emulated version of Skrillex's roughneck bass sound. I obviously processed it a bit, so I had added a reverb filter instead, and in lieu of that, added the basic wavetable here and kept that wavetable position around this area. And you can kind of see that. As I play the bass through, I had literally just wrote the pattern back here. And this by itself is. And I'm messing around with that beginning part of the LFO that brings in that odd little like pluck to create a nice little like twang, kind of like plucky, weird, off, almost like doesn't seem like it's supposed to be there, but it is. Then you can see here I have it layered as a chordish looking thing, because every time I did that it gave me that weird kind of like cool, almost accidental that happened. Processing wise, you can see that all I did was EQ out the low end, sidechain, add OTT. If you don't know what OTT is, I don't know what it does either. It's kind of just like a multi-band compression, and it just kind of does like, it kind of just brings out every value of the sound higher, depending on what you choose. And I have the timing at obviously like 100 or 1000%, that's what they want to call it, with my downward compression kind of like at 42%.
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer in every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
Because that's where I like it. Kind of brings out the vibe a bit more. You can choose wherever you want to go with that. And then my out gain is at 0.0 because I don't want it to really be too loud. My depth at 100, that's the same thing as dry wet essentially. And yeah, I have the highs and the mids boosted a bit because I have no low end, so I just want to like give that a little more accented value. and boom, you put that together, and that's with this counter bass. It's the exact same sound, but in a higher octave. Exact same sound as, oh dude, come on. And then exact same sound, but just higher octave, and probably, I think, let's check before I speak. Nope, all the same. Except the screech value might be at 100%. I think it's also at 100% here, but I could be wrong. Nope, screech value is a little lower, at 27%. So what the screech did here was turn it into that high-endy screech that you hear in the song originally, but now we don't have that. Sub is a Cymatics Project X 80840. I manually faded all this so that I can get that idea, or the kind of like basically emulating the LFO sound without losing anything. And yeah, then I kind of just wrote the pattern, and it goes. Accompanied with all of that, you can hear that this is a BSS sample that I've had forever. Pretty much same thing, EQ'd out the low end. And then sidechain, OTT, Camel Crusher, I believe it's on British Clean, same thing as always. And then we got this company thing that I actually took and transposed. I resampled this company bass, transposed it, so you can hear it's kind of going. With another company one shot that's very like insignificant inside of the drop, because you can barely hear it because these basses over here are actually overpowering it. But it does add like a little bit of twang and gives it a, like something introduced different to the ear. And I have that exact same thing repeating here as well. And then here we have that same company like pattern one shot that I turned that one shot into. Cashmere bass growl into with another this cashmere bass growl is actually going up. Yo, we got Felmax in the building. I don't know if he's still in here, but what's good? What's good, Daniel? And yeah, if you put that all together, the B half sounds like. And the processing is not really too crazy on any of these one shots. You can see here, if we open, or if Serum FX wants to open, what it do? We got an X shaper distortion with the drive at roughly 25 to 27% ish, with a mix at 100%. Reverb is kind of sitting on that 35% wave, but I want to keep that verb wet at 5% so it's not being too overpowering. It gives the little vibe there. Get that tiny hall vibe. And compressor for sidechain, OTT, and Camel Crush. Boom. And we got the same vibe over here on this company one shot. Oh, we're getting to the part where my RAM wants to act a fool. Hold on, we're going to recycle some more memory. Hold up. We're recycling the memories. You and Felmax have very similar styles. You favor the vibe over using samples all day. Yes. Felmax is a great producer. Absolutely great producer. Makes some fucking crazy music. And I absolutely love his sound design. And that's all I can say about the man, bro. He's just amazing. I miss that dude too. Back to that company one shot. We got that vibe going on with the serum effects. We got that X-shaper distortion on it, kind of give that little flavor to it without it. With it. Tames the sound a bit. Why do you use the X for OTT over Ableton's? Great question. Thank you. I do not like the Ableton OTT because sometimes it can go crazy. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know what the issue is, but sometimes it just makes my sounds more liquid than I want it to be, and it seems like the OTT from Xfer or Zephyr, I don't know how you say that, just seems more put together to me. I like when like the sounds are put together, or when the VST lets everything sound more put together. So, I mean, not the VST, but like the effect plugin. So yeah, we got the same vibes going on here as you can see with the written patterns, and so all together, boom. Going through those fills again, we got goes into tape stop effect from Crane. This is a While Out or something sample from a dance hall pack. All I really did there was put an OTT on it and some serum effects. Got that little like flange on it, flange vibe. Forgive me. It's a delay with the feedback up a bit, 75%. Normal over ping pong and tap delay, mix at 34%. Filter on sample hold. We got the mix of actually 0% because I must have realized I didn't like it. So yeah. And boom. And then we got these random little boom. Cool. Fills are being covered. And now we're going to the break. Very similar to the intro. Back to the build-up, exactly the same on both.
VIP.
Now the magic that you're hearing is coming from the automation on the track, which is song tempo. On the build-up, you can see it goes from 150 to 172.
VIP.
Drum pattern is pretty simple. Pretty simple. Got some hats going on here. So, drop synths, we're going to go really quickly through how simple this stuff is. A lot of exactly what you saw before. The growl with those 2 layered growls. With the virtual riot thing. With another virtual riot style sound. Oh, yeah. And all that is doing is just giving me a nice little top layer for my yoys, which is like that. With my classic growl that I use. Using the smaller, the LFO pattern is not changing at all inside of Serum. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have that short synth in front of, at the beginning of my LFO, so I use that as basically like a small little filler in the pattern. And then we're back to layering the original whiplash sound with the yoy. And boom, you got you a drop. And once again, all put together, it's with the same exact sub work and layout. It's and boom, that's where we are at. Cool. So now I'm going to take a few minutes to answer any questions that you guys might have before I get out of here. So yeah, let's get it. So many producers struggle to get... Oh, and if I missed any of your questions, please retype them so I can see them and answer them. So many producers struggle to try to get to the craziest, most unique sound design, and in the process, the song loses its human touch to it. Can you expand on the importance of a vibe? Okay, so this is something I'm always going to be a huge advocate for, and I think it's really important. But one thing that should always be known is that music is music. Means you have to have musicality to it. It has to be a little bit humanized. And if in the process using a loop or using a bass one shot helps you get to the point where you can create a vibe that you are going for, then that's going to be the way to go. I think it's more important to set a tone in a song than to worry about whether the sounds are all unique and cool. At the end of the day, when I make music, I'm going for all sorts of different types of vibes. Sometimes I want to tell a story. Sometimes I want to just go for the most insane song possible that I can possibly make. Or sometimes I just want to make something nice and emotional. So I like to understand where I'm at mentally before I write the song, and then understand that if there are any tools to help me express my emotion faster, I'm going to use that. So it's more important to worry more about whether your song is setting a tone. The musicality of it, the structure of it, whether everything kind of makes sense where it's at, and making sure that you kind of like are bearing in mind the importance of using any tool possible to help you get a more humanistic vibe to your song. To me, it's just so kind of like left field to just create sounds and then worry about the musicality of them after I've created the sounds, because I'm not a technical producer. I'm a music producer. I make music. I make stuff that you're going to want to listen to And so that's kind of like where I kind of keep my head at, is that I want to make songs that are more musically inclined rather than sound design inclined. And I think it's really important. What's my master chain look at? Like, I kind of briefly went over it, but I'll briefly go over it again. This is a remake of a Tassione master chain that he did for Cymatics. If you go and do some Google searching or some Reddit threads, you'll find the original master chain that Tassione made. This is a replica, but with my own taste to it, with my own certain kind of levels and macros, and I'm not kind of like very versed on how it all works. I just kind of know how it all pieces together. And pretty much there's a utility here, ducked down to negative 0.733 dB, so that I have negative 7.33 dB of room to mess around and clip with and do whatever I want with a bit warmer to give certain different frequencies some warmth. My dry wet is at 6 minutes, and that's kind of like 6%. Sorry, I was reading the chat at the same time. 6%, so that it doesn't become too warm and doesn't become too saturated. I have an EQ here with a ghost EQ curve. That's kind of like, you can see the frequencies here that it's EQing out, so that we're not clipping anywhere in the low hertz, or we're not phasing in the low hertz wave, and we're not going insane on the mids. And there's a nice little shelf here on the highing, so we're not going too high or not making those ear-piercing sounds. So we got an OTT here with all of our inputs raised 5 or so dB, 5.20 dB, with an output value, as you can see here. To be honest with you, I have barely any idea what it's doing. This is one of the things I copied from Tassione. It is set at 8% on the amount. And then enhance, which is what I added to the chain after the fact, which was to give more of that enhanced toning, so that my tonal values all make sense. They all kind of stick out. They're kind of cool. Blah, blah, blah. Multiband compression. Another multiband with the exact same values almost as the first one, except these are all up by 1/6 of a decibel. And then these are all set to 0 with 1 dB higher amount at 50%, so we're not getting the overcompressed sound. Glue compressor on there, threshold of negative 9.67, just to save us from a little more clipping, with a makeup value of 11.1 dB because we lost a lot of value from our threshold, so we had to make up in our makeup. And then with the dry wet at 50%, so it's not overpowering. Once again, with a utility at the end boosted by 0.4 dB, so our overall waveform looks beautiful. I just add a spectrum at the end to make sure I'm staying on key everywhere and my master does not phase into different keys in and out. And that's about it. That is where I'm at musically. Those are 2 songs of mine, Jin and the Whiplash VIP. Thank you to Alex and Jackson, everyone at Defire, for bringing me on here. I had a lot of fun. I hope I can come back and do this again. This was pretty fun. I'm going to take this next 5 minutes to answer any questions you guys might have in continuation, and then I'm going to get out of here. So let's go. Hey Farhan, thank you so much for showing us and giving us tips and advice. Hope to see you around. I'm in San Francisco and work at Bill Graham. Keep grinding. Hope you'll be safe. Hunter, thank you so much. I had so much fun playing Bill Graham for Crush. It was one of the most exhilarating shows of my life. San Francisco holds a very special place in my heart. I hope when I'm back there I can see you and we can go crazy. And I hope that you are doing well through all this coronavirus stuff, and I hope your family is good. And thank you for tuning in. So the limiting on the master, not on the individual tracks, correct? Yes, sir, Hosan. Or Josan, however you say your name, my dude. Sean Nguyen, thank you for tuning in. I am glad that you could learn and have fun with this. I swear, man, learning rules and guidelines in music production can be detrimental, and watching more sick producers like you and Ray Volpe who have no idea what they're doing is inspiration for it all, man. It's like, if you spend too much time becoming an like engineer, then you're not really a producer anymore. You know? Be more musical. Spend more time writing real music and writing more fun, variating stuff. And if you gotta use a sample or a loop, who fucking cares, man? I don't care, and I can guarantee you that 99% of the other bigger quote-unquote producers don't give a shit. Just because the community online says, oh, you gotta use a loop, or you're using a Monk sample, and blah, 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 who fucking cares? People make samples and loops for a reason. They're all created to make the process of producing easier for you. They're all to give you inspiration, and it's not about what you use, it's about how you use it. Create your own unique style and create your own totally unique vibe to your music, and let your music speak for itself, and have fun with what you're doing, you know? Awesome live stream, definitely made my night. Thank you, Kaylee, for tuning in, and I hope you have a great night. Robert Quinones, thank you for the information. Thank you for tuning in. Totally believe in that. Do or Die is by far my favorite track so far. Absolute banger and such a beautiful song. Just wanted to say that. Thank you so much, Mac. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everyone at the fire. I'm going to go ahead and log off now. I'm super tired and really thirsty. I really, really appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope I can come back and do this again. And till next time, make more musically related music. I'm out.